Hi. The question today, how to handle menopause. It's good that I'm being asked that question now in my life because I am going through menopause, and only now do I feel comfortable talking about it. Before you go through it, it's just a concept and it's just knowledge, things you read about. Until you live it, until you're in it, just like motherhood, you just don't know. So here I am. I would rather not today dive deeply into the nutritional aspect of it or medical aspect of it. I'm obviously talking about menopause from a perspective of a woman who's not using hormone replacement therapy. Even if I felt comfortable with it, I cannot, or I'm not, people don't recommend it for me because of the history of cancer in my family. So perhaps it's the case for you as well, or perhaps you're just not comfortable with it. So I'm talking to women who obviously are not going through that process because you probably feel great. You're probably not feeling much of what we're going to talk about. But you may still get something quite lovely out of this conversation. I would like to discuss the emotional, intellectual, spiritual aspect of menopause. Because one of the things that I feel is really important to discuss here is the fact that for some reason, menopause now is like this big, crazy, scary thing, almost like it's not supposed to happen. And indeed, the world is telling us it's just a very bad thing that is not supposed to happen. And I think behind that is much more about this constant pressure of not aging, especially for women. We are just not supposed to age. Therefore, menopause is not good, and it's a very bad word. And as in the word menopause, I think it's more a great opportunity to pause and reflect. The body is less and less in the face of the physical. It's the end of our ability to create life, procreation. And that's sort of dying down, right? And I feel, and I actually feel it. So it's not just a thought process, but it's something I'm experiencing. Are you? Are you experiencing somehow you are much more interested in what we call the spiritual aspect of yourself? So the physical is less acting out. We don't have our period. We can't really procreate. And let's be real. We're not little girls anymore. As much as we're trying to live up to a more youthful, standard nowadays, you can't really fake the inside. So we can put our creams on and pull our face or do whatever it is that we're comfortable doing in order to like the reflection that we see in the mirror. And that's a very personal choice. And at the same time, the reality of what's happening inside of you, you're not regressing. You're not going back to 12 and 15 and 19 and 21 when getting the male attention was very important. Having their approval was very important. And the approval of the world was very important, fitting in. And it's almost like a rite of passage, right? We need to find a mate to procreate. And from the most basic caveman-like idea to the sophisticated version of it, this aspect of our lives I believe, especially with the ability that we have now to actually make a living for ourselves and take care of ourselves that way, add to that menopause, where as the body is relaxing and letting go of its chores, there's a curiosity into our spirit, into our spiritual, if you don't like that word, into your emotional peace, your ability to be comfortable with the woman that you are. And I say woman because you're not a little girl. And internally, that is as real as it gets. Menopause to me is a new and different rite of passage into almost wisdom. Now, I'm not saying we have to wait for menopause, but there is something to it, to the fact that there's less busyness on the physical level, and certainly more love and care in investigating into our feminine, wise, heart-based well-being. And it is true for me. The outside world is not quite as important as how it feels to be I, how it feels to be. And I think that menopause is part of that. It is a time in our lives where acknowledging the beauty and the perfection of exactly who we are, and having more patience and more kindness toward examining the aspect of ourselves that we're not so comfortable with, or have not been comfortable with. And now we actually have more willingness to look into it and let it go, learn what needs to be learned. We're more contemplative. And if that hasn't hit your radar yet, I have a sense that it will. Or perhaps it has, but you're so very busy with work and the kids and the family that perhaps you haven't paid attention, you haven't paused for a little bit just to connect with that energy and see if it's true for you, where feeling comfortable and being able to speak your truth with kindness, with gentleness, being more patient with others, all these things are more important because it's a reflection of how you are with yourself. So for me, the outside world and its demand on who I'm supposed to be is less and less important. I don't need the outside approval as much, very much at all. I need to feel comfortable with Isabel. And Isabel does not want to create competition with women or men. I want people of all age to be comfortable with me. I want to be comfortable with them. I don't want to compete with women anymore. It's not about that. That's I've been there, done that. And menopause to me is sort of acknowledging that it's okay. That was then. We're moving to something different now. A lot of us are raising kids, and a lot of us understand the impact of who we are on our children, and that matters a great deal, and that is also allowing us to become that wise woman. And so if menopause has been something scary for you, I invite you to investigate something that you may want to welcome and embrace and settle into. Because however you look on the outside, we're not 25, 35. We're going into our 50s and our 60s and our 70s. we're slowly walking there, all of us. And menopause is just a time to reflect on all that. And yes, there's physical uncomfortableness. I'm going through it. I've never had headaches in my life. It's showing up in forms of headaches, partly. And there's hot flashes, and there's nausea or inability to sleep not quite as well. So all these things are not fun, and it's great ways to supplement yourself and ways that you can eat, change your diet. There's many ways to support your body physically. In concrete ways, as I've just mentioned, in some countries it is prescribed to allow your body to gain that extra 5 to 10 pounds. The estrogen levels are dropping, and the extra fat may help the body support all the changes, and apparently will slowly let it go once it's done with that transformation. I've gained 5 pounds. It felt quite good. Now I'm not saying go eat donuts and pizza and lasagnas and go crazy. No, you continue taking care of yourself, eating healthy. But our bodies tend to want to gain a few pounds, and I'm not going to be very popular saying that. I know that. And it's going to be very, very difficult for most of us to allow that to happen. Perhaps it's unfortunate. Perhaps it'd be nice to see if you can continue working out, doing your exercise, and eating well. But again, be kinder and pay attention to your body. Perhaps it is possible to allow your body to gain some weight, just to investigate what that feels like. Is it helping feeling less crappy through these 5 to 10 years? But I know it's difficult. We are being asked to be extremely thin nowadays. Thin and cut and no fat and almost looking like men. And we work very hard at it. And indeed, there's a lot of acknowledgement to that ability to get there. And yet you can't deny that something is happening. We are not men. And so for me, it's a very personal choice, but for me, training in a kinder way, as opposed to, again, forcing and submitting your body to a hardcore regimen in order to suffocate it, not allow it to gain any weight at all costs. Sometimes it's not the wisest thing to do. Again, I'm saying that's just a thought. Some of us may be comfortable with it, some of us may not. But if you're highly uncomfortable, if your symptoms are high and really disturbing to you, you may want to investigate that. So what I'm saying here is there's many, many ways to deal naturally with the body, supporting it. And what I'm emphasizing here in this particular dialogue with you is also to support it emotionally and psychologically, and therefore spiritually. Support it in reminding yourself that women have been going through this for thousands of years. It is not a disease. Some of us may have more medical complication. I'm not getting into that right now. Generally speaking, it is not a disease. It is normal. We all go through this, and we all will pass through it, and it will be done. It is a moment in our life like so many other moments. Puberty, pregnancy, giving birth, perimenopause, and menopause. And there is a purpose to each of these phases. So if I look back, I have learned a great deal from each of these phases. Specific events and situations presented themselves at those times that were specific to those times. And allowing myself to be at peace with it, to welcome it and flow with it as much as I can, has always helped me. Always. And I'm getting better at that. So here I am in menopause, and being at peace with that process, being better at honoring it and listening to it, reading about it, understanding it, and supporting it with the way I am perceiving that moment in my life. is very important as well to ease the whole process. We can go through this with ease and grace by not fighting it, by not making it something terrible, by not seeing it as a thing that will sabotage our beauty. Beauty is much more than single digit body fat. And by learning to be a bit more flexible in our lives in general, we may need to rest a little bit more. It's asking us to rest, I've noticed. Doesn't mean you sleep all day. It doesn't mean you quit your job. It just means that you take little moments, little beats to acknowledge that you might be a little bit more tired time to time. And therefore taking a 5-minute break, a cup of tea, go into your backyard, lay on the grass, listen to a lovely song, read a book for 5, 10, 15 minutes when you feel tired. These little moments of listening to what your body is asking for could make a huge difference. And it may become a habit. Why not? That habit we can get into way before menopause, and we can keep it post-menopause. The habit of being kinder, more patient, more open to all the information that our bodies are constantly giving us. It is begging to be heard. It is you. Inform for now. And it's not useless. It has a purpose. So, menopause is a time to pause, to acknowledge that you might be on your way to wisdom. You have an opportunity here to not see it as the enemy. Something is wrong with you, and you must not allow it to happen, or you must postpone it at all costs. Allow yourself to move through it. Allow it to be. Allow yourself to be. It's okay. Nothing's wrong. I hope that was helpful. Thank you.